Today we're going to talk about, what are you actually selling? And this is something that is a lesson that took me many, 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 many years to learn. And well, I'm going to start off by saying that it's really important to understand that ultimately we're not selling products. When you sell products, even though that's what you're supposed to do and your job is to move products, we don't want to lead with our products. And the reason why we don't want to lead with our products is because your products are essentially a commodity. Now, you have a little bit of safety net, a little bit, if you have some exclusives. And traditionally, janitorial supply companies, distributors really, really, really wanted to have and had exclusives because then no one else could have the similar product, the exact same product. In today's day and age, almost every single manufacturer has their products available through buying groups, through Amazon, things like that. And if someone really wants your product, they can get your product from another state, another supplier. So focusing and trying to put your efforts on trying to block people from selling products and stuff like that is a losing battle. What we want to do is change the game and focusing on selling products, walking into a facility and trying to find out what the glass cleaner they're using, what floor finish they're using, all that stuff is not a recipe for success. What we want to do is we want to lead with our insight, with our knowledge, and with value. And ultimately, they are buying you. Your expertise, your knowledge, your insights, your ability to help them achieve their goals and objectives. And you do that with your products or services, but you don't lead with your products and services, because if you lead with your products and services, then all that's going to happen is they're going to go to the incumbent and say, hey, I have this great floor finish I've been introduced to that has all these bells and whistles. What do you have that's similar? Because why would that person want to upset the apple cart, start replacing all the products for exactly the same products? And why would they want to start ordering from you just one SKU when they order all their other supplies from someone else? If they can get something that's exactly the same or similar, they're just going to order from the incumbent because they're already ordering from them anyhow. They're already getting their brooms, their brushes, their paper towels, all these things. So for all of a sudden then to start just ordering just a particular floor finish from you is futile. Unless you have positioned it as a new technology, a new concept, it's brand new. They can't get everything through someone else. And so that's what we want to look towards. But there's different levels that we work towards. And so that's what we're going to talk about right now is those levels and how to move up those levels. And so we're going to start by first identifying that fundamentally it's almost impossible to get market share and profitability. You either have to be one or the other, right? You can't be a Walmart and a Nordstrom's. You can't be a Kia and BMW. Okay, you have to know what you're going after. Market share has nothing to do with profitability. Market share says we just want to be big and we don't care if we make money doing it. That was Herb Keller from Northwest Airlines. Or Southwest Airlines. So market share just says we're going to walk in and we're going to buy up the business. We're going to be so cheap and our efficiencies are going to be so perfect that no one's going to be able to compete with us like an Amazon. And therefore people are just going to go to us because we're cheap. We have everything in stock. We run very, very efficiently, thin margins, but we do a great job at it. Now, a lot of your competitors or some of the people that you might buy from, that's their strategy, right? They want you to buy from them, and then they want to go with low margins on the larger accounts. And then those larger accounts try to use you to get you to give free service, free training, what have you, by buying a little bit from you to try to get the free service and the training, because the box members don't have that ability to provide that kind of service. There's no profit in it for them as well. So you got to be aware of people trying to play you as well. But ultimately, you need to put on your profit-driven hat, meaning that let your competitors have the accounts that don't value you and or your knowledge and the outcomes that you deliver. Let them go after the low margin business, because they're going to go out of business. They're going to not be able to compete in the long term. So we want to focus on profitable business. Now, having said that, there's only so much profit and extra pricing and extra selling that you can do when someone has set a bar. So if someone sets a bar of floor finish, as an example, at $100, it's going to be very, very hard for you to sell that at $200, because the bar has been set, right? And it doesn't matter all the technologies that you have and all these things, however you position it, however you sell. For $100 gap, there's going to have to be a lot of efficiencies that they're going to be able to justify that $100. So there's a limit. Having said that, though, getting someone to spend $120, $130, $140 on a pail of floor finish when they're presently spending $80, $90, or $100, it's very possible. But it needs to be strategic, and it needs to you need to add value to the equation. So the way we do that is to recognize the value creation process. Now, again, value is another word for profit, as in shareholder value, right? So it's profit. And it can be a little challenging to get your head around what profit means, because a lot of us think of value meaning free stuff, meaning, you have your consumer hat on, right? So you go into the mall, you're looking to buy an iPhone, and there's 3 different suppliers, and they're all relatively close to the same price, same contract terms, what have you. But someone's going to offer free upgrades. They're going to offer free headphones, a free charger, what have you. You go, oh, okay, I get this extra stuff if I get it from this vendor. Those ones aren't offering that, so I'm going to buy from there. That's not what we're talking about. That's value as far as stuff goes. What we're talking about is value as far as profit, as far as ways that creates profitability for your customer. And the more profit, more value you offer is a higher investment in your time, but it's also a higher investment in your customer's time. So if they're just like, I just want low price, drop the box, I want hand towel, paper towel, drop the box, I want Kimberly Clark or equivalent, drop the box, that's all I want. It's kind of hard to sell that value, because they just, you're going to drop the box, low investment on you. They're going to buy it, low investment on them. But if they start working towards trying to improve things within their facility, they're trying to implement change, if they're trying to have a bunch of different objectives that we're going to get into, then they need a commitment of their time with you, and you're going to make a commitment of your time with them. So someone has to pay for that time. And they pay for that time by ordering your products and you making a higher margin, because let's say they're spending $10,000 a year and you're making 30 points. Okay, so you're making $3,000. Well, if they can get it from someone else for $2,000, then they need to justify that $1,000. They're not going to rock the boat for $1,000 a year if you're adding all of this value, right? Things that they need, such as such as women's training or helping them achieve certifications and what have you, then that $1,000 isn't a big deal. But if you're not investing in them, right, and you're not adding value to them, then they're going to sit back and go, oh, this $1,000, I can get all the exact same thing from someone else for $1,000, because you're not adding any value, just dropping a box. So we need to look at that. Now, the majority of the market and the majority of your competitors are product focused. About 80% are product focused, and you might be product focused as well, and that's okay. We're going to move up this ladder, but let's understand what product focused is and what that looks like. So product focused is a losing game, right? We still live in a world where most sellers think they're selling products and services, but that's not true anymore. So Jill Conroth. Now, this is a quote by Jill Conroth. She's now retired, but it's a true quote, right? Most sellers think they're selling products and services, but that's not true anymore. The internet, information technology has leveled information. Information is a commodity, right? We need to recognize that your products are a commodity. And I know it's very hard to get your head around that, but it's true. There are exceptions on certain products and stuff like that, absolutely. So as an example, when the iPhone first came out, that was unique. No one had it, right? It was revolutionary. You got the phone, you turned it, the screen changed, what have you. Okay, they were first to market. They got a huge market share, right? But even then, even Apple, they have more. They have more profitability. Samsung has more market share because they have cheaper costs, what have you. So these are just things to think about. So you're not selling products and services, okay? So as an example, how do you distinguish between these two machines? I mean, ultimately they do the same thing. They're the same size. There's a few little minor changes, like the way the fill tank and one's covered, one you uncap it. The pads are basically the same. The squeegees are the same. It's self-propelled, all these things. So how do you sell against that? The word is it's very hard to, right? It's hard to create differentiation. So then how do you sell against this, right? I mean, ultimately from your customer's perspective, the bottles look very similar. The dispensers look extremely similar. In fact, they're almost identical. So how do you sell against that? Right, and that's what we want to focus on. What's what we want to understand is that this is product focus. That all you're going to have here is a price-driven sale. If someone is going, they might like you, they might want to buy from you, and if they go with you, they're going to go with you because pricing is extremely close. They like you, they have a little bit more trust with you. You've won that relationship, but they're not paying any extra for this. They're not going to pay for dispensers if this company says they don't have to pay for dispensers as well, right? So they're not going to pay for you. They're going to say, well, I can get free dispensers from this guy, what have you, right? It is a price-driven sale. It's product focused. So what does product focus look like, regardless of whatever we're selling? But we're using chemicals as an example. So in this case, you might talk to them and be product focused about packaging size, right? Packaging size plays a part. You could sit back and say, well, ours is for 1.89 liters, and they could say, well, ours is for 2 liters. It means that you get an extra 4 liters in our case, or an extra half a liter. So you get extra products, okay? Or our dilution rates. Well, our dilution rates, we have a 1 to 16, they have 1 to 32. Okay, no, this is product focused, and it helps differentiate you a bit, but it's mute points. People aren't going to pay extra a lot for these differences. Odor, right? Oh, they might prefer your lavender by someone else's, what have you, a fragrance, and they might ask their employees, which one do you prefer? And all things being equal, the employees say, well, I prefer the lavender, and they go, okay, well, you know what? My employees like the lavender better. They think it cleans as well, but they like the smell better. So if everything's the same, we'll go with you. Okay, but this is still a product focus. You're going to win on some of the features, and that is a challenge, right? Now, you could say, well, ours is green. Okay, so green, what does that mean? But that is a differentiator. It's something about your product, but it's still product focused, right? You're focused on the features of the product. You're not focused on the outcomes of what it delivers. And we need to focus on the outcomes of what your products deliver, because that is where you create the differentiation. It's selling the insight, it's challenging them, it's making them be better. You don't want to be the bartender that says, hey, do you want another? That's just easy. You want to be the trainer, the fitness trainer says, hey, you know what, you did 10 sit-ups today, you do 11 tomorrow, right? You ran 3.2 on the treadmill, it's 3.3 today, right? You're pushing them. And so we want to make sure we understand that, right? So the biggest takeaway I want to implore for you to understand and get is the goal is not to fix what's not working. Our goal is to replace what's not working with something new, altogether different. See, if you go in and you say, well, I have a product that is as good or it cleans better than the product you're using now. And they test it. Well, yeah, it does clean better, but my people still like the product. It takes ink off the lockers, right? You're just trying to win on better, right? But the goal is not to fix what's not working, right? So the customer, if you sit back and say, well, and they have to just sit back and say, oh, well, this product is kind of a little bit better, but they're not going to pay for that. It's a very hard sell. And your customer is going to be like, you know, I made a mistake, right? I don't want to admit I made a mistake. So I order from this person. I tested these products. I've got these products. For you to sit back and say, oh, ours is better. What you're saying is you made a mistake. Ours is better. And change because ours works better. And it's just, you'll get the odd sale here and there, but it's not long-term sustainable growth opportunities. What we want to do is move up the ladder and get away from being product focused and start talking about health focused. Okay, and there's a difference. Product focused is about the products. Health is about the outcomes of what they're doing. Now, it doesn't matter if you're selling janitorial services or janitorial supplies. The health focus is the same, right? It's a different sell. It's looking at things from a wider lens. It's not just my products, it's the whole building, what's happening in this building, what's happening, what are the outcomes, what are the ramifications of people using the products that they're using, what is the outcomes that are being delivered, positive and negative. And so it's focusing on the health. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So recognize that product focused is a losing battle. It's okay to start there if that's all you knew, but you also need to be careful because you don't want to position yourself to your customers as a product focused person, because for you to come in all of a sudden next week, in a week from now, and try to sell it differently, you've already been positioned differently. So you're going to have to work strategically on changing the perception of you and your knowledge. And so you want to be a little strategic in that and how you're going to do that. And that's a different lesson for a different day. But for today, recognize that starting off and being product focused, trying to see what products they have and replacing those products by saying, let me give you a price quote, is a losing battle. There is almost zero chance that you walk in and say, let me give you a pricing on all my products. And you're going to sit down, waste your time, get 30 products and rate your prices on there and send it to them. And they're going to look at it and go, oh my goodness, this guy is 10% cheaper. Get rid of everything. Let me retrain my employees. Let me do all these things and save this 10%. That's not going to happen because they're going to look at it and go, well, to the incumbent who they're dealing with, their buddy, XYZ company has just come in and they're 10% cheaper. My response was to the company, can you match this? Because I want to still do business with you. And they're going to match it. And that 10% that you've just, given them on a price quote, think about this. If they spend $5,000 a year and you save them 10%, it's $500. Like whippy do. It's $40 a month. I mean, come on, right? Let's just put into perspective. That's not going to make anyone change unless they have no money. Then maybe. And do you want that business? No. Now you sit back and say, well, okay, they do $50,000 a year. Okay, so they're a lot bigger company and it's still $5,000 a year, right? So $400 a month. Now, the odds of you having too many accounts that are going to do $50,000 a year in supplies is slim. Especially, they exist absolutely, but there's not a lot of them. So we're talking about the average account that's doing what, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year. So you winning that price and trying to win their products and drive down the price, it's not a recipe for success. So we're going to look at the next level, which is health focused. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next session.